Here is your full long emotional story, written in plain paragraphs, smooth pacing, and powerful enough for a 40-minute YouTube narration. It begins with a strong hook, pulls viewers in till the end, and naturally motivates likes and subscriptions through emotional connection rather than direct requests inside the narrative. People would later say the moment everything changed began with a single knock on a quiet night. But before that knock, before the world of a powerful Navy Admiral and a humble single dad collided, there was the rain. Heavy, cold, merciless rain pounding down a lonely street, where a janitor with tired eyes and a soaked uniform lifted a trembling little boy into his arms and whispered, "Hold on, buddy, we're almost home." That's the hook no one forgets. The moment that makes viewers pause their scrolling, lean closer, and wonder, how does a man like him cross paths with a woman like her? And why would the knock at her door change both their lives forever? If you're watching this, stay till the end. Stories like this don't happen twice. Michael Hayes, 34, worked as a janitor at a naval training facility. His shifts were long, the pay was stretched thin, and every night he returned home with a back that felt older than his age. Yet when he walked through the door of the tiny apartment he shared with his 7-year-old son Noah, he was simply, Dad, the superhero who never showed his pain. He never told Noah how he skipped meals so his son never had to. He never said how he took extra shifts because medical bills from his late wife's illness still haunted him. Noah only knew warmth, comfort, and a father who never folded. The night everything began, a storm had hit the city unexpectedly. Streets flooded, power lines crackled in the wind, and the naval facility was on emergency standby. Michael stayed late, mopping corridors while emergency teams rushed around him. Most people didn't acknowledge the janitors. They walked past him as if he were part of the wall. Everyone except Admiral Evelyn Carter. Known across the Navy as sharp, fearless, and impossible to impress, Evelyn had risen through the ranks not because she wanted power, but because she refused to let a cruel world decide her worth. She had given everything to her career, too much, maybe, which was why her house was quiet, her dinner table was usually set for one, and her heart had learned to stay guarded. But even a guarded heart pauses when it sees something unexpected. As Evelyn rushed out of the facility that night, clipboard under her arm, she slipped on the wet concrete outside. Her ankle twisted, and papers flew everywhere, straight into the rushing gutters of rainwater. Before she could curse the storm, Michael was beside her. He didn't hesitate. He dropped to his knees in the freezing rain, gathering every soaked sheet, shielding her from the wind with his own body, helping her stand even as water streamed down his face. His son clung to his jacket, shivering quietly. "You okay, ma'am?" Michael asked, voice gentle despite the cold. Evelyn stared. A janitor, drenched, exhausted, clearly struggling himself, was helping her like she was the one in need. "Your son, he's freezing," she said, concern slipping through her stern tone. Michael adjusted Noah in his arms. "I'll get him home, but I wanted to make sure you were safe first." That sentence, so simple, so sincere, struck Evelyn harder than the rain. "Wait," she called as he turned to leave, "you helped me, at least let me give you a ride home." But Michael shook his head. "Thank you, ma'am, but I don't want my problems to become anyone else's burden." Evelyn watched him disappear into the storm, a father shielding his child with his own body. Something inside her twisted. Respect, curiosity, gratitude, a strange ache she hadn't felt in years. The next morning, she looked for him. He wasn't at his usual hallway post. Not in the maintenance room. Not on any shift logs. By noon she learned why. Michael hadn't shown up because his apartment had flooded overnight. Everything he owned, Noah's books, his wife's old photographs, the few belongings they treasured, destroyed. He had taken emergency shelter in an old community gym, sleeping on a thin mat, sharing one blanket with his son. And still, Michael showed up to work later that afternoon because missing a shift might cost him his job. Evelyn found him wiping down a hallway with tired hands. The mop handle shook each time he lifted it. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" she asked, her voice softer than he'd ever heard. Michael looked at her, confused. "Ma'am, I'm just the janitor." She stepped closer. "You're the man who helped me in the rain when you needed help more than anyone. That matters." He didn't reply. Maybe he didn't know how. Over the next week, Evelyn quietly arranged assistance, without making him feel small. A temporary apartment. A safer school transfer for Noah. Replacement uniforms. A small hardship grant the Navy sometimes offered to civilian staff. She handled everything efficiently, carefully, respectfully. Michael didn't understand why she cared, but he was grateful beyond words. Slowly, their worlds began to overlap. Evelyn started passing by the maintenance wing more often. Michael visited her office to sign paperwork. Their conversations grew longer, easier, warmer. Noah adored her, especially when she brought him little puzzles or asked about his day with genuine interest. Michael saw past her rank, past her medals, past the walls she'd built. And Evelyn saw what she had been missing in her meticulously ordered life. Purpose outside duty. Laughter. The warmth of a child calling her, Aunt Eve. And the presence of a man who made her feel seen, not as an admiral, but as a woman.